Welcome to Bar Talk. I'm your host, Brandon T. And like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. As a matter of fact, share the post. Share about the podcast. But like I said, let's talk about it. Question of the day is this. That we're gonna try to answer is: does the highly religious background cause generational trauma? Yeah. Now, I know. I'm not saying that, religious church backgrounds is a problem. The question I have is, does the highly religious background cause generational problems? Go think about it. I want you to think about it like this. Let's say that, you're my age, about 40, and you're in your 40s, you're raising children. So, you look up to our parents' age, from 40, you look at your parents' age, right? And that group right there was maybe, the last group that was coming out of a highly religious background. Because, think about their parents, your great grandparents, highly religious. Everything was, it was all about the church, and the church rules and so forth. And you going through that. So you got this, and then a generation that would be our parents. Let's say that was they started rebelling against the highly religious part, right? But they was going through the rebellion. There was also the strong undertones of church in them, and so and some of the teachings back then was what was the sins and so forth, and sex was like the one of the bigger sins that people talked about back then. So so think about it, from your grandparents, what I'm saying, we'll push the highly church on them to your parents, and like I said, sex was like the worst thing. Sex, alcohol, drugs, and stimulants, so forth. It was pretty much what the church was preaching, fornication, adultery. Those messages were pushed heavy and so forth. And you had those heavy messages. And so like I said, even though our parents, rebelled against that, but in turn, there was some of the rules they did follow. And so a lot of them, this is where I say the generational curses come in, is that they marry quickly because each side wanted to have, let's say that sex was a big part of it. Each side wanted to do it, and so they barely knew somebody, liked somebody, and so forth. And then when you showed interest in trying to date or whatever, you got your parents, their parents, your grandparents, their parents pushing, oh, y'all need to go ahead and get married and so forth. They're pushing that, that marriage constraint because they know that, hey, what people do and so forth, and they push that onto them. And so that's why you have a lot of, bad marriages and so forth, and extra traumas that, like I said, you pretty much putting people together that didn't really know each other. But because of, the highly religious part here is like, oh, you like them, you like her, you better not get pregnant. Oh, you better go get married real quick, and so forth. That religious push down, created certain situations to put certain people together that shouldn't be tied together in that way, and so forth. And then that drama. So say like you got these two people married, and the dude didn't want to be married, right? Or the girl didn't want to be married, but since the religious part pushed the marriage down to them, they were married. Then now they go get divorced, or they don't get divorced, and the guy is turning, he's a player, he's just dancing all over here because the religious part here is coming down. Say, hey, you got to marry her and so forth, and that created traumas into that. And so that's why I propose the question is the highly religious background called generational curses. and so forth. 'Cause like I said, you start mixing people together and forcing them together because of the religion and so forth. And does that, like I said, does that in turn cause a bigger issue? Because it seems like to me that once you start, putting those type things together, and without the natural order of things, it's like for instance, I've heard stories of people liking each other in church, and next thing you know, there's all types of innuendos like, oh, they should get married, they should, use words like, oh, fiancés, and all that, super tied words together, because like I said, the biggest, they said, sin in the super religious part was people having sex and so forth. And so with that, did that cause issue? And then to another thing, right? And so let's put this the that part aside. What was actually taught in everyday life from the super religion? It was always, we're in the end times and so forth. And you gotta be religious, and you gotta go to heaven. If you don't do this, go to hell. It was all about all the talk of after the life and so forth. And it was not really a lot of talk about how to live and so forth. And it was like, make sure you pay your tithes and so forth, and catch that offering plate, and put a little money aside for yourself. But it was no real talk about what you do with the money when you put it, up. But think about it though. Now today, church is a little different. I will admit, I hear you in the back. Churches are a little different. So there are some churches that try to talk about prosperity and wealth. Right. That's in this generation. But if you go back over to the generation of your parents, then it was more like, hey, make sure that offering plate, put a little bit of money aside, and there was no talk about how to conduct yourself in business and how to conduct yourself in pretty much the world, right? It's kind of like, hey, go to church on Sunday, come to Bible study on Wednesday, and just kind of just cruise control yourself out there and to the rest of it. With that being said, it's like it was so many gaps and holes and so forth that people fell through because like it was extra religion. It was no hey, how you should handle it. It wasn't no like, hey, you should handle a situation, any adversities, handle them like this, that, the third, or how to manage it, your household, you should do this, that, and the third, so forth. It was pretty much just super surface level, and so forth. Like I said, it was almost the super religious part was, hey, you need to always be in church, and then they don't have any, if you gonna have sex, go get married, and so forth. And that like I said, that super push then pushes down, then rebels here, and now the next generation where, hey, like I said, our generation here, and within your 40s and so forth, you look at your parents, it's like a lot of divorce. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? A lot of infidelity and so forth. You know what I'm saying? You got some guys with, had 10, 15, 20 kids and so forth. You know what I'm saying? But they married here and had all these kids because, like I said, the super push down. There was no, no way to, to necessarily talk about, that how to live life in a practical way and so forth. And then that drama goes down to the next drama because then, like I said, within that, the generation above us, they rebelling against their parents, your grandparents, and so forth. They were more, want to be free of some of the constraints of the highly religious part. And then we're losing those constraints and so forth. And when it with losing constraints, they were losing a lot of the family issues with it also, and so forth. And then, like I said, it just created, drama. And then, like I said, with all the moving around, like divorce, so forth, created resent on like I said, their actions and so forth, and then that came down to deal with the children, their children. You know what I'm saying? How they parented their children. Maybe they didn't want to parent and so forth. And then like I said, a lot of you know what I'm saying, children, kids, people that's in my age bracket, you know what I'm saying, generation was raised by the grandparents because the parents here was kind of wanting to be free, but after you know what I'm saying, the highly religious part, you know what I'm saying, created a family, then it exploded because like I said, it was like I said, you're making this whole decision on about hey, want to have sex or not, and so forth. And then when that exploded, then so forth, and then those, you know what I'm saying, non-parenting, you know what I'm saying, depends on how your grandma was. If your grandma then wasn't there and the children started raising themselves, aka latchkey kids and so forth, all that, you know what I'm saying, turmoil and so forth was created through the super religious, and then the super religious, and then the rebellious part from the super religion and so forth. But I'm saying that the religious part wasn't the bad part. It's the like the when everything was balled up into it and so forth, and there was no wiggle room for you know what I'm saying, human nature and so forth. Then it became a problem. And so like I said, so now as the generations, you know what I'm saying, get further away from the super religion, let's see will there be a correction of how family and people interact. And with that being said, it's been Bar Talk. Like I said, like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you later. Peace.